Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Chief Judge George Ortiz, and on behalf of the entire 19th Judicial Circuit, it is my great honor to welcome you to our Constitution Day celebration. I'd like to take a moment to introduce my partners in the administration of justice, and we have a number of judges here. Circuit Judge Jim Boris, Judge Christopher Stride, Judge George Strickland, Deputy Chief Judge Jay Ukina, Judge Luis Berrones, Judge Theodore Paconiak, Judge Michael Foose, Judge Michael Bitar, Judge Charles D. Johnson, Judge Elizabeth Rochford, Judge Charles Smith, and I presume the rest of the judges are still busy working, hearing their court calls. Oh, Judge Lombardo. Nice of you to join us, Judge Lombardo. In addition, it's great to have with us today State's Attorney Mike Nierheim, Public Defender Joy Gossman. I saw her a few minutes ago. Oh, there she is. Also, the County Treasurer, who happens to be a lawyer, David Stolman, is here. County Clerk Carla Wyckoff, I think, is here. Commissioner Michael Danforth, who is a lawyer as well, has joined us this afternoon. Nice to see you, Commissioner. Is the sheriff here? I thought I saw representatives from the sheriff's office. Constitution Day is celebrated annually in the United States and highlights the creation and signing of the Constitution on September 17, 1787. It also recognizes all United States citizens. In a democratic and diverse society such as ours, what must tie us together as Americans are our shared values. At the heart of these values and our system of government is the United States Constitution. This document, originally written in 1787, established the framework of government that is still in place today. The Constitution organizes the federal government as three co-equal branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. The judiciary, our court system, has a special and unique role in American constitutional democracy. Americans have long looked to our courts as the guardian of our basic freedoms, protector of the rights of individuals and political minorities, and interpreters of the Constitution and laws of the land. Thank you for joining us today for this very special celebration of our Constitution. At this time, I ask you to please rise as students from Cristo Rey St. Martin College Prep lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. It is now my privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce the president of the Lake County Bar Foundation, Jeffrey Berman.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to speak here today. It is my honor to represent the Bar Foundation on this Constitution Day as we celebrate not only the birthday of our Constitution, but the ideas that make us Americans. The product of fierce debate and enduring compromise, our Constitution reflects the values we cherish as a people and the principles we strive for as a society. The very bedrock on which America was founded is embodied in our nation's foremost Charter of Freedom. The framers of the Constitution believed in both liberty and accountability. The Constitution thus secures the rights we enjoy as citizens, but also demands participation, responsibility, and service to our country and one another. As we celebrate the world's longest surviving charter of government, we also rightfully should reflect on the responsibilities of our profession and remember that upholding the founding principles requires us to pursue the more perfect union the founders envisioned and work in furtherance of a safer, fairer, and more just society. That's where the Bar Foundation comes in. We are the philanthropic arm of the Bar Association. Through the foundation, the Lake County Bar is working to enhance justice, promote fairness, support the disadvantaged, and much more. Toward that end, the foundation provides support to a variety of programs and organizations that advance those critical interests. Just a few examples include court-appointed special advocates, which protects the interests of abused and neglected children in the courts; Prairie State Legal Services, which provides free legal services for disadvantaged and low-income seniors; Teen Court, which provides free legal services and helps first-time juvenile offenders obtain a fair opportunity for a fresh start and a clear record; the Family Visitation Center of Lake County, which promotes the safety and well-being of families and children who have suffered trauma, violence, or abuse; Veterans Court, which helps troubled military veterans access justice and get the help they need; and of course, our own Lake County Bar Volunteer Lawyers Program. Of course, there is always much more that can be done, and the Constitution gives us both permission and support to do that. The foundation fully embraces that responsibility, and with your support, we will achieve that goal. And in doing so, together, we can reaffirm our collective commitment to the ideals and principles the framers enshrined in our Constitution. It is quite fashionable these days to quote Alexander Hamilton, and so I will leave you with one from 1794. He said, "If it be asked what is the most sacred duty and greatest source of security in a republic, the answer would be an inviolable respect for the Constitution." A sacred respect for the constitutional law is the vital principle and sustaining energy of a free government. Indeed it is. Congratulations on an outstanding event, and thank you again to the organizers for extending to me and the foundation the privilege to be part of this wonderful program.
Ladies and gentlemen, a special video has been created for this wonderful occasion, and it is now my honor to introduce the president of the Lake County Bar Association, Jennifer Howe, who will introduce this video.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Howe, and I currently serve as the president of the Lake County Bar Association. I'd like to thank Judge Ortiz and Judge Rochford and the other organizers of this event for inviting me to represent the Bar Association, which, for those of you who don't know, that is a not-for-profit organization of attorneys and legal professionals in our county to celebrate the signing of the nation's Constitution. The ideas on which America was founded, commitments to the rule of law, limited government, and the ideals of liberty, equality, and justice are embodied in the Constitution, which is the oldest written constitution of any nation on earth. Constitution Day is intended to celebrate not only the birthday of our government, but the ideas that make us Americans. One of the most fundamental American ideals is the notion of freedom. Freedom is a concept found throughout American history and throughout our Constitution. But freedom can mean different things to different people. Freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom of religion, freedom of association, and countless other connotations of this word. For that reason, the Lake County Bar Association was delighted to be asked by Judge Rochford to put together a short video asking local citizens and our own Judge Ortiz what the word freedom means to them. As you will see when you watch the video, the concept of freedom is uniquely shaped by your own experiences. Clearly, we all bring our own individuality to the concept of freedom. But freedom in America not only encompasses our personal freedoms, but also includes the fierce protections of other freedoms as well. This is one of the cornerstones of our nation and a concept that is timeless. The Constitution, in fact, was not written for the times, but was written to withstand the test of time. The LCBA is a diverse group of over 1,000 attorneys and legal professionals. Yet, however diverse we may be, like our nation, our organization is committed to personal and professional freedoms, as well as to the enhancement of justice in our community for all of us. I so appreciate being given the opportunity to participate in this celebration of the Constitution on this very special day. I hope that you will enjoy the video that was prepared by the Lake County Bar Association. We are honored to be able to participate in this prestigious and meaningful event.
Coming to the United States from Lebanon when I was 4 years old, and it means the right to get your citizenship and live in a country where you don't have religious persecution and other things that happen throughout the third world countries. That's what freedom means to me.
For me, is that I can do whatever I want.
Freedom means to me to be able to express your mind and opinions, to challenge yourself and respect your fellow man, respect everybody. Freedom has multiple meanings for anybody, but to me freedom is strictly the freedom to be yourself, but also not incriminating anybody else, and you speak your mind.
For you to do what you're doing right now, that's what freedom means to me.
Freedom to me means, being here right now, enjoying life.
Freedom means to me that the rights of the Constitution, being down from Philadelphia, the Declaration of Independence, 1776, July 4th, that means a lot to me. So that's it, that's all, you know what I'm saying? That's it.
It means the right to be able to disagree with someone and not be made to feel as though I'm weird or something, or that the other person is weird, that we can agree to disagree.
Just living however you want, doing what you want, and yeah, that's it.
What does freedom mean to me? It means I can open my big mouth and say what I need to say whenever I choose to, as long as I don't call fire or harm anyone. How about those bananas?
It means a lot. Almost 52 years ago, we had to leave our country because in 1959 we lost our freedom in our country. And I feel so grateful that we were able to come here and live free and live our dreams. Our armed forces, our Constitution, our rights, everything is so beautiful that when I listen to the national anthem at a sporting event, it brings tears to my eyes. It does.
Freedom means living in a land where the rule of law is respected. It means the ability to speak freely, to assemble, to worship. It means equal treatment regardless of one's race, color, creed, sexual orientation, or gender. And freedom also means the ability to reach one's fullest potential.
That was nice. That was very touching. We live in a land, obviously, of diverse peoples, cultures, and religions, and I think that video perfectly captured that. Now, at this time, Judge Charles D. Johnson, Assistant State's Attorney Stephen Rice, and the students of Cristo Rey St. Martin will lead us. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. Thank you, Judge Rochford. It's always good to have Judge Rochford around because she'll keep you straight. Judge Luis Berrones is now going to regale us with some very interesting facts about the Constitution. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I guess after that introduction, it might have been better just to skip it and go to the song, but I have to live up to some high expectations. Well, yesterday on September 17th, as you've heard, the Constitution celebrated its 230th birthday, anniversary, whatever you want to call it. Now, many of us read and study the Constitution because it is such an important document, and it's such an important part of our government, and it impacts our life. For those of you who study this document, you generally start at, you read the Constitution. Maybe lawyers, we read the cases to see how the courts have interpreted what the Constitution means and use it to protect our rights. What I would like to do today is just briefly talk to you about some not so well-known facts, but some interesting facts about the Constitution before it became the law of the land. The idea of our Constitution started in 1786, which is 3 years after the end of the Revolutionary War. And at that time, Alexander Hamilton requested that Congress call a constitutional meeting or convention to try to form a more stable and permanent government. In February 1787, Congress invited all 13 states to send delegates to Philadelphia to discuss how to structure this new government. The response was almost overwhelming. There were 55 delegates representing 12 out of 13 states that went to Philadelphia. Interestingly enough, Rhode Island did not send any delegates to the Constitutional Convention because they felt that this would lead to a strong central government. So they decided not to participate. Well, 4 months later, on September 17, 1787, the final draft of the Constitution was ready to be signed. And interestingly enough, out of the 55 delegates there, only 39 signed the Constitution. 3 of the delegates, Edmund Randolph and George Mason from Virginia, and Elbridge Gerry of Massachusetts, refused to sign the Constitution because it did not have a Bill of Rights with it. The other 13 delegates that didn't sign the Constitution were absent from the convention. So talk about missing your one opportunity to, big opportunity to make history. Who knows where they were? I wasn't able to find any information. Maybe they went back home. But those 13 delegates missed a great opportunity to be part of our history for generations after that. 2 founding fathers that everybody believes signed the Constitution actually didn't sign the Constitution. And that was Thomas Jefferson, who was the U.S. Minister to France, and at the time he was in France, and John Adams, who was the U.S. Minister to England, or Great Britain, and at the time he was in England. So they didn't have an opportunity to sign the Constitution, even though they did sign the Declaration of Independence. Now, after the Constitution was signed by these delegates, it was ready to circulate it amongst the 13 states for ratification. Now, Article 7 of the Constitution required ratification by 9 of the states for the Constitution to be the law of the states ratifying the Constitution. So 9 states, when 9 states ratified it, then those states were governed by the Constitution. Those states not ratifying, and I didn't know this, were not governed by the Constitution. So if they didn't ratify it, they were not, the Constitution did not become the law for them. Now, on June 21, 1788, the required 9 states ratified the Constitution. And again, Rhode Island was the only state that voted not to ratify the Constitution. Originally, in their first vote on March 24, 1788, the vote in Rhode Island was 2,945 votes against ratification and 237 votes for ratification. So they were strongly opposed to ratifying the Constitution. However, Rhode Island eventually saw the error of their ways and ratified the Constitution on May 29, 1790, over a year after George Washington had become our first president on April 30th, 1789. Now, while Rhode Island was the only state not to ratify the Constitution, there were 3 other states that held out until after George Washington became president. New York, North Carolina, and Virginia did not ratify the Constitution until late 1789, which was several months after George Washington became our first president. Now, as I mentioned before, there were 3 delegates who refused to sign the Constitution because of its lack of Bill of Rights. Now, James Madison in 1789 proposed to the House of Representatives a Bill of Rights with 20 constitutional amendments. The House approved 17 of these amendments and sent the Bill of Rights to the Senate. The The Senate approved 12 of the 17 amendments and sent it back to the House of Representatives, who then approved the 12 amendments as our first Bill of Rights. Now, the original Bill of Rights consisted of 12 amendments, not just the 10 amendments that we know as the Bill of Rights. So I know you're all asking yourselves, what happened to the other 2 amendments? Well, even though the Bill of Rights or the amendments to the Bill of Rights was put together as a package, each individual amendment had to be ratified by the states before it became an amendment to the Constitution. And on December 15th, 1791, 11 states ratified amendments 3 through 12. The first 2 amendments were not ratified, so the ratified amendments were renumbered as amendments 1 through 10 and became our Bill of Rights. Now, if you read the proposed original First and Second Amendments, they really don't fit in with the other 10 amendments, which everybody knows is protecting our individual rights. The original First Amendment dealt with the allocation of members in Congress based on population. If we had passed that, if that amendment had been ratified and we adhered to that formula today, we would have 6,000 members in Congress. The second original amendment dealt with congressional pay races. That amendment, however, didn't die. 203 years later, in 1992, that amendment became our 27th Amendment. Now, since the ratification of our Constitution, there have been over 11,000 proposed amendments introduced into Congress. 33 have been submitted to the states for ratification, but only 27 have been ratified. Now, I hope these not so commonly known facts about our Constitution have kind of piqued your interest into studying the Constitution and looking into its history. If you're interested in viewing the original Constitution, it is on display at the National Archives Building in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I knew that the sheriff was here somewhere, and here he is in the front row. Sheriff Curran, thank you very much for joining us. Judge Mitchell Hoffman has also joined us. I see the chair of the County Board's Law and Judicial Committee, Mary Ross Cunningham, is here. Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham. Chiefs Petrillo and Hare from the Lake County Sheriff's Office have joined us as well. It's nice to see you all here. You know, on a daily basis in this courthouse, a number of constitutional rights come into play. The right to counsel, the public defender and other lawyers afford people the right to counsel. The right to jury trial, the state's attorneys and the public defender and all of the other lawyers participate in jury trials on a daily basis. The right to vote. The county clerk, Carla Wyckoff, has the responsibility for overseeing elections in this county, and she does a marvelous job doing so. And so it's interesting how these constitutional rights come into play on a daily basis. At this time, Judge Charles Johnson, D. Johnson, Assistant State's Attorney Stephen Rice, and the students of Cristo Rey will lead us in what I'm sure will be a marvelous rendition of God Bless America.
On behalf of all my fellow members of the judiciary and the attorneys assembled here, I want to thank everybody for inviting us and for being here to honor the anniversary of the Constitution. And we want to end with seeking further blessing in going forward from this point. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Constitution is a living document whose survival depends upon each generation of Americans understanding, supporting, and actively promoting its principles and values. Each of us has a role to play in this process, and the judges, lawyers, and other public servants who have the honor of serving in this courthouse do so on a daily basis. But it is also up to each and every one of you to do so as well. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you on behalf of the entire 19th Judicial Circuit for joining us here today on this special celebration of Constitution Day. And I also invite you to pick up a complimentary copy of the U.S. Constitution, which is set on the table here just outside the library, and to join us for some refreshments. Thank you.